Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today for our webinar titled, Your Network Drives Your Business Resilience, Protect Them Both. I'm Seth Greenberg, Director of Corporate Communications at Allot, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Mark Steinman, Senior Vice President of the Allot Smart Business Unit. Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Seth, and welcome everyone.
So today we have an interesting session planned in which we will discuss the cybersecurity challenges that telecom operators face today and the solutions that protect both their network and their business resilience. Today, Mark will talk about whether your network is equipped to defend itself and your invaluable reputation, and what tools are in place to safeguard your network and business resilience. We'll review the latest network attack landscape and how it affects telecom service providers. We'll discuss the must-have ingredients to deploy effective network protection. And then Mark will explain how the Allot SmartNetProtect solution safeguards the network and its valuable impact on business resilience. Also, as a part of the webinar, we'll be sharing a recording of an interview with Eric Olsen, Rakuten Mobile CISO. Mr. Olsen discusses security trends in Japan and describes the successful implementation of the Allot network protection solution in Rakuten's mobile network. So before we get started, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping items. First, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand in the resource section of the Allot website when you select Webinars on Demand in the resource type filter. And then feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar using Q&A window on the right side of the screen. There will be a Q&A session at the conclusion of the presentation, and we'll do our best to answer all of your questions. After the webinar, we'll be sending you a position paper on network protection, which offers additional insights beyond what you'll hear today. And that is all for the housekeeping. So Mark, the floor is yours. Please begin.
Thank you, Seth. And again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. So to kick off the discussion, I will start with a short introduction. And into today modern network architecture, it's quite easy to deploy new and exciting services. However, these services are coming also with increased level of vulnerabilities. Basically, by launching each and one of the new services, we are increasing what we call attack surface of the network. So the CSPs have to come with a new approach. We believe that mechanisms which were deployed previously in protecting, let's call it, old networks, are not enough, are not sufficient to address the new threats and the new designs of the new networks, and new solution is required. That's why we designed Allot SmartNetProtect, a really comprehensive data plane or user plane network protection solution. So let's start with the market trends. And when we're talking about market trends, it's primarily regarding the threats that are faced with which the operators are faced these days. So if you're looking at the last year, 2023, there is a rise on all of different types of the threats for the telco operators. We can see that UDP floods are significantly increasing. We can see much more frequent attacks. They are more frequent, but they are also shorter, what we call hit and run type of attacks. They are very hard to detect due to this reason. We see that the botnet activity is increased significantly, and the attacks are becoming more and more complex. So we have seen attacks composed from 3, 4, and even 5 different attack vectors. If we are looking on different segments, you can see that telco, the CSP providers, are number 2, the second most attacked industry comparing to other industries. You can see that other industries include also finance, entertainment, and government, but the telecommunication is number 2, and the number of attacks has increased significantly by 83% during last year. Also, when we are looking at the geographical distribution of the botnet producing these attacks, it's quite interesting to see that majority of these attacks originated from developed countries. So we can see United States, South Korea, Taiwan, Great Britain, Germany, Japan, and others. It is quite, and the reason for that is the wide deployment of smart or IoT devices, which again, very widely deployed in the developed world. And those devices, which are designed with no security, let's say algorithms or mechanisms embedded, they are very vulnerable and they are used very frequently for producing these botnet attacks. So to summarize the trends regarding the telco industry, we are looking at the second most attacked industry. 17% of all the attacks are focused or targeting the telcos. The attack is on the amount of the attacks is on the rise due to the wide deployment of IoT devices. And of course, we are expecting to see continuous rising of the threats and amount of the attacks because of the continuous deployment of new use cases, new devices, new IoT use cases. When we're talking about the network protection, we divide it to several problems that we would like to address. And by we, I mean any operator, any CSP who are looking to protect their network. So first of all, the first use case is the protection of the infrastructure itself. So what we refer to as network services protection. This use case is regarding, again, I'm repeating myself, protecting the critical infrastructure, the network elements of the core network of the operator. Second problem that needs to be assessed and addressed is the reputation problems. Sometimes attacks produced within the network of operator can either cause to service disruption of the operator himself or cause him to be blacklisted by the other operators since they will identify the operator as the source of the attack. So reputation is a huge, huge issue. Another bullet is regarding quality of experience, QE protection. We believe it's extremely important to make sure that even during the attacks, the critical services like DNS, like BGP, like different business applications that can be deployed and used within the network, it's extremely important to make sure these services and applications continuing to run and work properly, even during the attacks. Another layer in the solution is the visualization. So ability to correlate the security threats, the attacks which are detected and mitigated with the network quality of experience to understand properly and of course to visualize the impact that the different security events are having on the performance of the network, on the quality of experience of subscribers or different applications. And lastly, the system needs to provide a comprehensive toolkit for post-mortem analysis of the attack. We refer to it as a forensic toolkit, basically being able to gather the relevant data, the relevant metadata regarding the attack, its source, its type, its destination, the pattern that we are identifying, and the data capture, which can be later used and analyzed by the SOC analyst in order to take proactive measures in the future. We believe that this security, as any other security mechanism or solution, needs to be compromised for several layers. And in our case, we have 3 different levels. So I'm starting from the right. You can see here Allot deployed at scrubbing center. And in this case, we are protecting the link towards the core network. We are protecting the link from being saturated. Okay, so it's inbound protection against link saturation. Second deployment here is on-prem, near the core network of the operator. And in this case, we are protecting, again, the core network itself from inbound threats, and we are performing access control to make sure only allowed users, traffic, applications are being allowed to access the network. And the third layer, it's actually protecting the core network again, but from the access network. It is protection from what we call outbound threats. Again, being able here to perform and detect volumetric attacks, being able to detect botnet and perform content filtering to make sure that malicious content is not accessed by the end user devices. Let's go a little bit deeper into the solution. We really believe that we are providing a state-of-the-art from technology perspective, multi-vector protection, and we are protecting both network infrastructure and its subscribers and applications. The unique differentiator of our solution is the ability to combine multiple security services within a single data path. So since we are analyzing all the traffic within the network, we are able to perform all these different algorithms, all these different mechanisms on a single data path. On top of that, we are adding user awareness and application awareness. Since we are deeply integrated within the control plane of the operator, we are able to enrich the data that we are providing and the mitigation that we are performing with the context of a user and application. So what are the key capabilities, key functionalities that the solution is providing? We are talking about anti-DDoS protection, both inbound and outbound. We are talking about anti-botnet. We are talking about network firewall, quality of experience protection, and visibility and analytics. And now I will go a little bit deeper into each one of these capabilities. So when we're talking about anti-DDoS, as I mentioned previously, we are talking about inbound and outbound volumetric DDoS detection. We are able to detect zero-day attacks because our system is based on machine learning. We are able to establish a good baseline for the network and then to detect the anomalies which are correlated to the attacks being performed on the network. As mentioned previously, we are able to detect short-lived but frequent attacks, what is referred to as hit-and-run attacks. And everything we are doing is performed automatically. So we have automatic detection and automatic mitigation. In this, and of course, that's what allows us to save a lot of OpEx, since basically the operator is just getting notification of the detected and mitigated attacks. He does not have to take decision in real time. To complement our inline capabilities, we have the scabbing center functionality, for which we are performing a selective diversion of the traffic, only for the cases when there is a risk of a link saturation. Second capability of the solution is anti-botnet protection, and we refer to it also as host-based anomaly detection. We are performing a behavioral analysis of the hosts, each one of the hosts deployed within the network of the operator, and based on this anomalies, again, we are able to detect, based on this analysis, we are able to detect anomalies in the behavior, and these anomalies are usually referred to or correlated to different malicious behavior, which were deployed, integrated within the proper functionality of the host. So we are talking about being able to detect the host behavior and analyze it. We are talking about threat intelligence basically being able to detect command and control communication of already infected hosts and prevent lateral movement, so prevent ability to distribute the same malware or the same threats within the network operator. And also here we have the automatic device or subscriber isolation. So once we identify certain host which is compromised and there is some malware located on it, we are able proactively and automatically to disconnect it from the network, and by that prevent further infection. Another capability is the network firewall. As any network firewall, we are able to provide access control capability and allow and block list functionality, of course, content filtering. But on top of this, I would say regular capabilities, we are able to provide additional layer of application and subscriber awareness. That allow us to define different policies on the firewall, and using these policies, we are able again apply different rules, whether it's access rules or allow and block list rules or content filtering rules for different service plans or for different applications, which of course again contributes a lot to the TCO of the overall solution, because we are able to optimize the traffic which is inspected by the network firewall. Quality of experience protection, another very significant differentiator of our solution, and quite a unique one, since the platform is based on DPI and deep packet inspection, we are able to properly and very granularly identify each one of the applications, identify critical protocols or critical services like DNS, like BGP and others, and apply different prioritization on these specific protocols, on these specific services during the attack. So even if the network is being attacked, we are able to make sure critical services are running smoothly and the service is undisrupted. On top of that, or to complement all this capability, we have visibility and analytics functionality, which allow us to correlate and to assess the impact of the security threats on the performance of the network quality of experience, and user experience. On top of that, we are providing a very detailed forensic kit, which is used later by the analysts in the SOC, Security Operations Center, for further analysis and establishing basically better, let's say, procedures and protocols going forward. I will not go through this slide. It's just an example of different attacks that the system is capable of stopping. This list is continuously extended with the new attacks, and we are also able to detect unknown attacks because, as I mentioned previously, one of the mechanisms we are deploying is machine learning. So even the attacks which are not known yet, and there is no known pattern to identify such an attack, using our solution, we are capable of stopping it at 0 time. With regards to the architecture of the solution, basically we are dividing it to data plane and control plane, like any other network element these days, according to basically the modern network architectures. So on the data plane, we have the sensor, and that's the actual function which analyzes each of the packets, from the user plane that it receives, and it creates the metadata, which is utilized by several decision and policy control elements that we have, and you can see them here at the control plane. So we have the DDoS controller for the anti-DDoS. We have the anti-botnet controller and others. So the architecture is very extensible and modular in this way. So we are able to introduce additional engines as we go. And it's done, or the functionality of the system is a single pack. So for each packet that we are analyzing, we are able to activate different function for different purposes. So this prevents the need to perform some kind of external service chaining and sending the traffic to, I don't know, mirror the traffic to different bus systems. It's done all internally on the single data path. Now let's talk a little bit about different deployment options that the solution has. So first of all, the solution is deployed or can be deployed as a on-prem mode or what we refer to as a hybrid mode. For the on-prem deployment, we are deploying the system only at the premises of the operator, and the possible interlink saturation challenge is mitigated via a peering operator or via remote mitigation, which is available also in the product. Another option that we have, which we refer to as a hybrid deployment, is where the excess traffic is sent to the scrubbing center provided by Allot, and then the clean traffic is coming back to the network. So in this case, we are deployed both at on-premises of the operator and at the cloud where we are providing the scrubbing center functionality. When we're talking about on-prem deployments, also here we have two different options. We can deploy in-pass or inline, okay? Or we can be deployed in tap mode. Tap mode means we are working on mirrored traffic or duplicated traffic. So the actual mitigation is performed remotely. If we compare between these two options, you are getting on the left, the inline deployment, you're getting a best-in-class detection time and mitigation time and full network protection capabilities, while on the right, you are getting the same detection. However, the remote mitigation can be somewhat less accurate due to limitations of the standards. I'm talking about flow specs, so we are not always able to mitigate the accurate pattern of the traffic that we identify as being the malicious traffic. But in this case, the solution is not deployed inline, and thus, let's say the operator is a bit compromising on the quality of the protection, but reduces the number of critical elements deployed. So essentially, it's a trade-off. On the left, you're getting the best and the most accurate and faster detection and mitigation. On the right, you're getting almost the best and the fastest mitigation. However, less elements deployed on the critical path of the traffic. When we're talking about how the system is packaged, basically we support all different flavors. It can be deployed as a physical appliance or bare metal. It can be deployed on different flavors of virtual machines, whether VMware ESXi, KVM, or OpenStack is your preferred virtualization platform. And we also support several different containerization platforms, so cloud-native deployments. So here we're talking about AWS, VMware Tanzu, and Robin.io. Let's look a little bit deeper into key capabilities that we are providing. I talked a little bit about network-based anomaly detection, and here you can see specific examples. So as I mentioned previously, we are able to define or to build the baseline, the good baseline of the network. And when I'm talking about the baseline, we're analyzing hundreds of different parameters of the metadata. We are not analyzing the data itself, we are analyzing the metadata. So we're analyzing the packet size and the frequency of the packets, and I don't know, the origination of the packets, and all basically other such parameters which we can gather from the network for each of different protocols that we are monitoring. Once we have this baseline, we are able to identify the anomalies within the baseline. Here you can see a baseline built for the SYN and FIN packets, okay? And it's clearly that there is a let's say, anomaly in behavior of SYN packet comparing to the FIN packet. And such anomalies are related to the security threats, to the attacks being experienced by the network. Another aspect I wanted to touch is the botnet attacks. And we believe botnet attacks present a #1 risk to the CSP reputation. Why is that? It can affect the behavior of the network in many different ways. It can cause to the network congestion. It can even cause to the service disruption. It will increase the operational cost associated with the network, and it can badly affect the customer dissatisfaction. On top of that, this can lead, of course, to legal implication, data breaches, revenue loss, etc. So in our opinion, botnet attacks is definitely a risk that the operator has to deal with. There is a quite long attack chain, okay, how these botnets are being deployed within the network. It starts with their reconnaissance, going to weaponization stage, delivery, etc. As part of our solution, we are able to mitigate or to stop the 4 last steps of this process. We are able to prevent the exploit by detecting and isolating the attack, for example, from address port scanning attack. We are able to prevent the installation of the payload itself by using the content filtering capability. We are able to prevent communication with command and control, and we are doing that in order to prevent further lateral movement within the operator and originating or engaging in the attack activity. And of course, we are also able to mitigate the attack itself when it happens, okay? So in our belief, it's really provide a lot of value to mitigate a very significant threat of botnet in the business impact these botnets are producing on the network. Next step of the solution is, of course, the ability to visualize this information. The information can be visualized and shared with the analysts, either in the tools provided by Allot. And see here you can see a different example of such reports in which we are sharing the recent attacks detect within the network. So you have the type of the attack, the severity of the attack, of course, the origination of the attack, and the specific data pattern that we identified and mitigated, for this attack. And so this information can be either viewed within the tools that which are provided by Allot, or integrated with the tools that SOC, Security Operations Center, is running for end-to-end security monitoring and management. So in this case, you can see Allot integration with one of the leading CEM providers. Okay, so the same information can be either presented within the tools of Allot, exported as the data records or logs, to other system, and integrate it within the CM system for further correlation with other security data. As I mentioned previously, quality of experience protection is very important. We believe that's a key differentiator of Allot solution, and we are able to do it because we are based on DPI, Deep Packet Inspection, so we are able to identify all these different applications and services, and we are able to perform traffic management. So we are able to prioritize that or another application under attack. It can be, by the way, either network protocols, I mentioned that previously, DNS and BGP, but it also can be applications which are impacted by the quality of experience. Couple of examples are gaming or video functionality. So looking forward, we are going to extend the capabilities and increase the coverage. So today we are supporting layer 3 and layer 4 attacks detection and mitigation, and we are looking to extend it to layer 7, being able basically to protect WAF servers and provide additional complementary functionality to the WAF servers, provide them with the resilience. The traffic today is mostly encrypted, and that's why for the WAF, it's much harder to actively, let's say, provide the functionality it's used to provide in the past. That's where, we are coming into the picture and able to complement WAF functionality with the additional layer 7 protection. So let's give the summary for the second. And if we are comparing our solution with other solutions available on the market, and there are different solution provided either by NEPs, network equipment providers, or cloud hyperscalers, or other software security vendors like ourselves, we believe that there are major differentiation when you're comparing Allot solution to this other solution. First of all, we are providing fully automated workflow, which allow to minimize the OpEx, the resources and time associated with the management and operating our system. On top of that, we are providing granular application awareness. Again, we are the vendor of best of the breed DPI platform, and based on these DPI capabilities, we are able to provide very granular application awareness, which allow us in turn to provide very granular policy management. Also, based on our DPI capabilities, and we discussed that in the previous slide, we are able to provide QE assurance during the attacks. Another very important parameter is to be able to protect the network, what we call bidirectionally, both from inbound, but also from outbound attacks. Botnet detection and isolation is a huge issue. And again, we are able to provide all these functionalities within the same platform. As I mentioned, the integration with the core network is deep. We understand all different network control plane protocols, whether you're talking about radius, DHCP, diameter, and all others. We are integrated, of course, with PCF, SMF, and other functions in order to provide the application and subscriber awareness, which again, in turn, allow us to perform a very granular mitigation and isolation. Since many of the operators today are deploying their solution on cloud, sometimes more than one cloud, multi-cloud deployment is also very much important, being able to protect the system which deployed on several clouds simultaneously. And the last but definitely not least, we are a telco vendor for more than 20 years. Our systems are extremely scalable and oriented on performance, high capacity. I can mention that in some cases we are able to protect not a single operator, but the whole country. So we are talking about terabits of traffic that we're analyzing in real time and protecting in real time.
All right, let's take a break and see how Rakuten Mobile CISO Eric Olsen describes the cybersecurity situation in Japan and get his take on the success of the Allot network protection solution in the Rakuten network. So earlier we recorded a conversation between Mark and Eric where they discussed these topics. So let's watch.
Hello, everyone. Our guest today is Mr. Eric Olsen, the CISO of Rakuten. Hi, Eric. Thank you for being with us and for your willingness to share your experience. Our guests in this webinar are telcos around the world, like Rakuten Mobile. So first, I would like you to introduce Rakuten Mobile, maybe touch Rakuten Symphony, and a couple of words about yourself and your professional journey and current role.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Mark, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. Hopefully most of you know Rakuten Mobile is the fourth MNO in Japan, where we operate our fully virtualized cloud-native network. Our mission is to provide high quality and secure mobile services at a low cost. We're going into the new year with we just crossed 6 million subscribers. And we're looking at strong growth and momentum going into next year as customers are looking to cut the cost of their bill as well as leverage additional synergies with the Rakuten Group ecosystem. About myself, so I'm actually coming from banking, where I've spent about the last 8 or 9 years before joining Rakuten Mobile in 2021. I joined Rakuten as the head of the Cyber Defense Operations Center, where I ran the Security Operations Center, our digital forensics team, security assurance teams, detection engineering teams, et cetera. Basically anything that has to do with the operations, cybersecurity operations. And then recently I took over as CISO in March of this year, where we've been continuing to execute on our cybersecurity strategy. And it's been a really great learning experience.
Great. Okay. Can you describe how you see the current security threats landscape in Japan and whether you believe it's, let's say, more localized or global and similar to other regions in the world? And also, are there any specific changes in the nature of the attack during the last 2023 year?
Yeah, so look, in the context of Japan, they're the third largest economy in the world. They're a very wealthy country. They develop a lot of intellectual property. So I think they're absolutely a target of financially motivated attackers, espionage, as well as attackers that are just looking for notoriety. So I think in terms of the attacks that are observed here, they're very similar to what one would see in Europe or the U.S. In specific attacks against the telco networks, I think I think you're starting to see the networks actually being leveraged as attack. They can leverage the telco networks as attacks, right? And so you have, for instance, a lot of IoT devices that are sitting, or even the UEs that can be used due to the substantial amount of bandwidth available. And I think the interesting thing is, the networks themselves are being used to attack others, which will likely continue to grow. I mean, we've got the 5G networks are relatively they're heterogeneous in general. You've got both the virtual networks, the cloud networks, you've got physical networks. Each one of these is a different attack surface, and each attack surface has different types of attacks. And so on the plus side, I guess we see a lot of attacks, so we can learn from those and continue to to build additional preventative and detective measures and secure our customers.
So there are different approaches on the market for network protection, cloud-based, inline like Allot, or offline and sampling-based solutions. Why the inline approach of network protection was selected by Rakuten?
Yeah, so we really wanted to take a lot of the decision making out of the analyst's mind, right? So how can we protect first and then ask questions later? You know, that doesn't work on every single network. However, when it came to how we wanted to take the approach for protecting ours, specifically from either inbound or outbound DDoS, we wanted to mitigate, scrub the traffic first, and then ask questions later. And so I guess it was everyone has their different risk approach to how they want to take proactive measures. And we made the decision to again put it in line so we could scrub attacks as we see them.
Okay, so I guess a full proactiveness and automation, of the protection, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
Got you. Okay. And what components of Allot network protection are deployed in Rakuten? Do you believe they are actually and actively helping Rakuten to overcome the current threat landscape?
Yeah, I mean, so we have the HBAD feature and the NBAD feature, so both the host-based and network-based anomaly detection. Yeah, they both serve their purposes. As I mentioned, we can proactively, mitigate threats as they're coming into the network. They're both continuously learning traffic behind the scenes. They've got their ML, they're profiling the traffic, they're learning new patterns, etc. And when it deviates from the pattern, then it'll proactively block. And so I think definitely we're able to mitigate these attacks while simultaneously, providing a quality of experience to all the critical network services as the network's operating.
And if you will look a little bit forward, what do you think the future security challenges Rakuten network, will face, and Allot solution will need to address?
Yeah, so I think one of the areas that we've been discussing with you all is how can we have sort of real-time signature, how can we add real-time signature detection for prevention into the product as well. So what I mean by that is how can we, for instance, set up an iPhone, an Android, emulator farm where we're intentionally infecting these devices with malware that's out there, some commodity, really anything that we want to both classify from a traffic perspective, and then install it, on these devices, look at the traffic, see what type of signatures we could potentially generate, and then we can be even more proactive and implement preventative measures into the solution for things that we may not even see on our network, right? So if for instance, there's some malware that's specific to Taiwan or the US or really anywhere, it may just not reach us yet. As I think, as we all know, some of these criminal gangs, they'll target a certain area, and then eventually that will shift over to another area. And so, yeah, I think that would be something that would be an excellent feature for us to have and look at collaborating together.
Great, Eric. We'll definitely consider that for our roadmap. So, Eric, again, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your valuable insights with the audience. And I'm confident it will contribute to building, more accurate and scalable network protection solutions worldwide. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, coming back with the presentation. So to summarize, what we heard from Eric from Rakuten Mobile, and Allot provided here a solution which protected the core, a virtualized core of Rakuten both from inbound and outbound attacks. It is, the additional advantage was ability to deploy botnet protection for 5G network over the same platform, and we were able to identify very specific low and slow outbound attacks originated, from the end users towards the net. Also, scale. I mentioned this point previously, and I also will show here the example of our scale. So we started the deployment with 20 sensors. It later was extended to 100 sensors deployed across Rakuten network, and we expect additional scale up of the system later this year. The solution initially was deployed, in a fully virtualized core as a VNet function, and soon again we are expecting to upgrade it to a fully containerized deployment. Protection of critical services, quality of experience of critical services. Again, it's not let's say nice to have. It's a real concern coming from our customers, Rakuten in this case, and we are able to fine-tune the system by our ERT, emergency response team, in order to be able to identify in very much, in very granular way, all the critical services, domains, and protocols, and make sure that even during the attacks, all this functionality is not affected. To summarize the business benefits, because we talked quite a lot about technology, so now I would like to talk a little bit about business benefits of the solution. So first of all, it provides comprehensive user plane security, user plane protection. It combines all these different components within the same platform. We're talking about firewall, botnet, and anti-DDoS. It is also deeply integrated within the core network of the operator with his control plane, and that's why we are capable of proactive, fully automated mitigation. So we are mitigating the attacks whenever we are detecting them, whether we're talking about incoming or inbound attacks, or when we're talking about immediate isolation of weaponized IoT or host devices, until these devices will be cleaned, will be remediated by the end user. And we are providing a very detailed threat intelligence and detailed forensic kit, which can be utilized by the data analyst for further upgrading his procedures and protocols for further proactive security management. We are protecting and providing assured SLA, service level agreement, and QE of the users. We are doing that because we are able to detect very quickly and meet all the threats and mitigate them. We are driven by machine learning, and that's why we're also capable of detecting and mitigating of yet unknown threats. We are accurately separating, based on our DPI capabilities, between the legitimate and malicious traffic, doing that in a very accurate way, which prevents over-mitigation. And we are performing protection and assuring performance for mission-critical protocols, services, and applications. To combine all of this together, the systems provide a low TCO, total cost of ownership. It's both related to the resources utilized by the system, whether we're talking about bare metal deployment or cloud native deployment. It provides unification, and again, by that, reducing the resources, both human resources, but also computing resources required for network protection. All these capabilities are orchestrated by the system and integrated within the higher level SOC operation, again, to provide an orchestrated end-to-end response. It provides protection for the reputation and prevents block of the network by the peer networks. This kind of blocking can lead to a very severe service interruption, and it allows the user to view the whole network protection suite from the single pane of glass. So one system, one UI, providing end-to-end network protection functionality. A very significant advantage and TCO impact. So that's it from my side. I think now we would like to get some to the Q&A session.
That's right, Mark. So I want to thank you for your presentation. It's fantastic. Great learning experience. And we do have a few questions, and we have a few minutes left. So let's get to that quickly. All right, so the first question we have here is, could you explain how the scrubbing center option works, and does it have extra costs? Also, who provides the scrubbing center services?
Okay, sure. So the scrubbing center option is deployed, is utilized, and when there is a risk of saturation of incoming interlink towards the operator. In this case, when we are detecting that there is an attack which is bigger than the capacity of the link, we are selectively diverting only the specific affected subnets to our cloud-based deployment, and then the cleaned traffic is coming back from the cloud towards the network. So I will repeat it. It's a selective diversion of only affected subnets, and only in case when there is a risk of link oversaturation. Now, this option does come with additional cost. The usual model is based on the amount and the volume of the cleaned traffic coming back from the scrubbing center. While this is a solution that we are provided is end-to-end solution, fully integrated and supported by Allot, we are partnering with one of the vendors, leading vendors, for the scrubbing center functionality, because in scrubbing centers, it's very important to have a wide deployment, presence in each and one of the geographical regions. And this partner of ours have more than 28 points of presence globally. Okay.
Okay. All right. Another question is, if your solution is placed in line and inspects the entire traffic flow, how do you claim minimal latency? And what is the effect on latency when working in hybrid mode with the scrubbing center?
Okay. So let me start with the inline deployment, and then we'll talk about a scrubbing center. So for the inline deployment, we do introduce minimal latency, and I will elaborate in a second on the actual number. However, we're introducing that only to 3-4 first packet within the connection. Once the connection is classified and analyzed, it's going through what we call fast pass, and then basically, there's no latency at all. So when we're talking about latency for the inline deployment, we're talking about 200 microseconds of latency. Such latency is undetectable, neither by users or applications or other network elements, basically it's really neglectable. And that's a really know-how of our solution, how to perform high capacity real-time traffic processing while not impacting latency in a significant way. Now regarding the scabbing center, and I mentioned that previously, when choosing a scabbing solution, it is important to choose a solution which has a point of presence POP in your area, where your core network is deployed. And by selecting that, or selecting such a vendor, of course, you're minimizing the latency impact. In this case, the latency is more significant. We're talking about several milliseconds. But again, as long as you choose a vendor which has point of presence near your core network, and he's capable, like Allot, to perform only selective diversion of the traffic, there is no impact on the user experience while performing this diversion.
All right, thank you. Let's see if we can squeeze in one more question. Can I get only the anti-DDoS service or the anti-botnet service, for example?
Yes. So while I said, it's a platform and it's combined from several modules, and capabilities, it is a composable platform. So you can decide whether you're deploying all different functionalities day one, or you're starting with anti-DDoS and introducing anti-botnet functionality only later. It is a matter of just additional license or software configuration. So basically, very easy, no additional deployment, hardware deployment is required, a matter of configuration change to introduce additional functionality, additional modules later.
Okay. We've reached the end of the webinar session. I want to thank Mark Steinman. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining us today. I want to also thank Eric Olsen from Rakuten Mobile for participating in the webinar, and thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules and participating today. I want to remind you that the session has been recorded and will be available on demand. So that's the end of the event. We look forward to hosting you again on our upcoming webinars. Keep an eye out for those. Thank you for joining. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.